Hello, Aries. How's it going? Happy November. I'm here to do your reading from today, November 3rd, to the 15th. Interesting. That was the card that came up in the last reading. I'm going to do something a little bit different because I feel like there's a lot of energy dispersion. So lots of people living very different scenarios. I feel like many of us are very overwhelmed and just exhausted, and we would like to kind of crawl under a rock and sleep and just have the world kind of leave us alone for a minute. I also feel like many of us are plagued, yeah, that's the word that comes, with a lot of very serious questions and decisions that need to be made, right? Some very important. Who am I? What do I want to become? What do I want to do? What's my next step? How does this take form? And those questions can weigh heavy on our minds. There's a lot of fifth chakra activity going on. So in terms of thinking, in terms of articulating, and of course that Mercury retrograde will only exacerbate that. I think, what's hard for us is how can I know today how I'm going to feel in a year, right? And what if I make a mistake? Now, the thing that's interesting is that your brain, when it makes a mistake, it suffers in the same way that it does as if it experienced pain. Which is quite interesting. This is why we try and avoid being wrong at all costs, because it actually provokes the same sort of neurological reaction that starvation does, that physical pain does. And so sometimes we don't make the decisions we need to avoid being wrong. But what actually gets in our way is that wrongness, right? So on the path of starting from point A and getting to point Z, there's lots of little steps along the way. And sometimes we may make a decision from point A to point B, thinking that's the finality, but really it's just a stepping stone. And sometimes we can, because we're afraid to say, okay, this isn't for me, or no, I actually didn't want that. And it may be a job, it may be a city, it may be a person, it may be anything, any sort of decision that you're currently not feeling at all, like this does not resonate with me at all, but you're not giving up because you don't want to be wrong. If you reframe that and look at it as it's not a wrong, it's not a finality, but it's a stepping stone to get you to the next place. You had to cross through there to get to C. You can reframe it and your brain will loosen up how you live that situation. I hope this is clear. If not, I'm happy to explain. The other thing I wanted to do is that since I've been talking to many of you, people are kind of like having all sorts of different situations. It's impossible for me to cover everything in a general read. But if you leave me a question and it doesn't have to be specific, a question that you know what it is, I will pull for you a question or an answer card, an advice card from this Radley Valentine deck, which I love. I actually wanted to use the Angel Answers, which are a little bit more to the point, but he's revised that deck and it's not available until the end of the month, ironically after Mercury goes direct. So I'll be doing that. We'll see how it works. I can never do the same thing because I'm in Aries. But we'll see. So yeah, leave me a message. I will try to get to all of them. I'm obviously most active from the time I post it. So, in the first 6 to 9 hours, I'll be awake. After that, I'll do them as I get to them. But let's get to the reading. Okay, so what energy can Aries expect for November 3rd to November 15th, 2019? What energy can Aries expect November 3rd, November 15th? We got this a couple of weeks ago, right? Forgiving that things don't turn out the way we planned, the way we hoped. And this is kind of what I was talking about before, that if you find yourself in a situation that you chose to be in, instead of like sticking to it, and the rhino, I always think of rhinoceros as like the Taurus sign, because it's kind of like the most fixed sign. And this is interesting. This could be representative also of that full moon in Taurus that's coming up on the 12th. Sometimes we get stuck in situations instead of saying, you know what, I made a mistake, move on. So when things don't pan out the way that we hope they do, it's okay to apologize to yourself or just say, hey, you know what, shit happens. Sometimes we make the wrong... It's like if you go to a restaurant and you order the wrong dish, you're not going to get mad at yourself for months after that. But we do get mad at ourselves when we make the wrong life decisions, quote unquote, wrong life decisions. But there is no wrong life decision. There's either one that works in that moment, because what you do one day may not be right for the next day. It either works, resonates, or it's a lesson. So in reframing what wrong means, I believe you'll have an easier time moving out of any decision that you know isn't working for you. Let's get the challenge. Can we? Oh, thanks. Okay. So that's the Four of Swords energy right there. And it's about postponing. So this is, you know, there's a choice that's not being made on purpose. It's almost like you can see the rosiness there, but kind of stuck in the gray area. So it's like, how do I get from there or from there to there? How do I color in this picture or fill the situation with more color? Now it's interesting because both Four of Swords and this here are dormant cards. So they are people sleeping. So this is definitely a time of repose, right? To reflect and think and also take in that sort of fifth chakra energy. Okay, let's get the other one. November 1st to November 15th, 2019. What part of our journey is this? What part of our journey is November 1st to November 15th, 2019 for Aries? What chapter of our journey is this going to be? Oh, goodness. I'm going to take the two that came up. Oh my God, that is so crazy. 4, Spirit of Place, and 40, Follow the Leader, right? So very 4 energy, which is strong, home-based. It's actually the Cancer house. You know, but it's putting down the 4 corners here. And it's very solid. It's very balanced. Let's read these actually here. I think these came up once together a while ago too. But I mean, you saw they literally exploded all over the place. They weren't even attached to each other. Okay, so following the leader. You're being called to lead others by example. Your wisdom has been earned as a result of your bravery in the adventure of your life. The experiences of battles won and lost, places discovered, tears shed, and joys revealed have placed you in a unique position to be of service to others. Your suffering has been crystallized into a talisman of wisdom. Now you must share it. And that's also interesting, sort of transmuting, which is very scorpionic energy, transmuting our experience into guidance for others. You'll be required to divulge some things about your past so that you may help someone else. Lead with love. There is another message here as well. Look to those whose great character and accomplishments you admire. Emulate the leaders you respect. You will then in turn have more to offer. That's quite interesting. And then Spirit of Place is... Our ancient ancestors believed that every place has a spirit looking after it or embodying it, just as we have a soul. The plants, trees, birds, mountains, and rivers have their own essences. When the Spirit of Place arrives in your reading, it says that the answer to your query is in the overarching theme of your circumstances. Is your question about a struggle? The answer is to relax and let go of your need to control the situation. If your inquiry relates to finding love, then embody love rather than longing for it. Once you find the essential truth that underlines your question and then name it, you'll discover the answers you've been seeking. Your greatest power is in your authenticity. Okay. So this is these are the two, in my opinion, answers to this, right? As we take a moment of reflection, right? This 4 energy that sort of dominates this reading, to forgive the choices that led us to unpleasant circumstances or to things that we live as a loss or as a wrong or as a didn't go how I wanted it to. And as we take stock of where the difference is between what we imagined and what we're currently experiencing, and how do we bring them into alignment, the answer seems to be here that there's an opportunity for you to turn whatever this experience is into wisdom for someone else. What's that saying? One man's trash is another man's treasure. So through this acceptance of the lesson and the learning, you're actually able to shift that gray to color for someone else. Possibly it's a transmutation of the energy. It's also, who do you admire and who does, look to the solidity of the tree, who's been there for a long way to guide you on your path, right? So whatever it is that can be a representation of solidity and strength and growth over time, that's going to be your best emulation. This one also asks to, and they're both nature spirits here. She's kind of in the tree. That the answer is in the question. And sometimes if we're not asking the right question, we can't get the right answer, right? So it's also, as you reflect on this situation that's not turning out the way you hoped, the question is, as you analyze it in this Scorpio retrograde moment, are we sure we're asking the right questions, right? Is there another question that's trying to come through? Or, is it like, as I look into that colored, was it really colored, or are those just my perception? Maybe it was actually gray all the time. Or am I the one who's stopping from color? It's like, so between the difference of the reality and the expectation of the situation, how is our perception and I want to say stubbornness, how is our perception and our stubbornness influencing the difference between the two? I hope this makes sense. Let's get 3 more cards here for the story. It looks like a lot of sort of advice on guidance, right? That there's going to be a lot of learning coming to us in the next 15 days, or a lot of analysis as we maybe check out and things calm down for a little bit, or as we do, I call them postmortems on situation. It's like, okay, what happened there? Why did that happen? Et cetera, et cetera. We have to make sure we have the right questions, that what's guiding our path is something solid and not something transient, that we're okay to accept that things don't turn out always the way we expect them to, and that's part of the process. And when they don't, there's a question of, why did that happen? Was it my expectations? Was I hoping for something from that person? We've talked about this before, that they could never give. Did I expect that job that has no growth potential to lead me to CEO and it doesn't? Did I expect that person who has always shown themselves to be emotionally unavailable to suddenly whisk me off and sweep me off my feet? So asking the right questions about a situation that's not turning out the way we want it to, so that we can let go of it and move forward towards something more stable. Okay, 3 cards, please, for Aries, November 3rd to the 15th. 3 cards, please, for Aries, November 3rd to the 15th. Okay, Queen of Wands. Very strong, powerful female energy. 7 of Pentacles again. So that's, asking the questions. What did I plant? What's coming up? What's this going to grow into? Was this crop worth it? These are all sort of stagnant energies here. They're all sitting still. Not a lot of movement here. Let's get one more card, please. One more card for Aries. One more card for Aries, November 3rd to the 15th of November. One more card, please. Aries, November, almost. November 3rd to the 15th. One more card, please. Okay, 2 more. Oh, Devil and 4 of Swords. So there it is. Okay, so yeah. And this Devil right here is it, right? It's sandwiched in between all of this reflection. What's keeping us in chains? Where do we have these ties that bind that we can't seem to get free of? What's keeping us down? What's dragging us? What's dragging our energy to such a low place? What lies beneath, because it's interesting. These are both, I've told this story before about the 4 of Swords, is that they would come back and reflect on, this is what they would do after the battle. And they would come back and reflect on what worked, what didn't work. But they prepared their resting place before they went out. So it was actually almost a happy thing to be able to come back and lie in your own casket and reflect on the future, So, and, this Queen of Wands here, I want to clarify this Queen of Wands. Because there's so much strength. And you know what? I think she may be, she's kind of like the beacon here, like this tree here, that there's all this analysis that needs to happen, or that's currently going on. Our minds are very busy, it looks like. And we're very actively involved in the process of sort of picking apart our past. We're very clearly trying not to repeat mistakes that we've made in the past. And how do we break free of these chains? And are these things that we've planted gonna give us something different than they did in the future? So I can see kind of like the heaviness of thought that's here. There is a card that asks us to forgive ourselves for ending up here. We don't always, it's funny, on a very personal note, my mom was here last week. Excuse me. We have a very strained relationship. It's very bizarre. I won't go into the details, but there was an episode that happened many years ago that was sort of decisive in her evolution. And I was thinking yesterday as she left that actually it was that I could have done something 20 years ago that may have changed the outcome of how things happened, but there's nothing I can do about it today, right? So if we're feeling bad about the past, if we're sort of stuck in this analysis of why do I keep ending up here? or God, I do not want to end up here anymore. And we're lost in thought about it right now. I think these are the two energies that we want to move towards, right? So find that Queen of Wands, find that stable planted tree that's been there, that offers solidity, that can guide us forward with strength and with confidence. Because actually I feel like this thinking as well can end up becoming its own sort of toxic cycle. So we don't want to get too lost in our analysis of, fuck, here's all the 9,000 things I've done wrong, and I should have done this, and I could have done that. And we can release this guilt about the past by helping teach someone else to not make the same mistakes, sharing our experience. So if you have a mentor or like a mentee or children or one of those Facebook groups where people share their experience, someone can benefit from your devil. And that will help. There's also this other question of, are we asking the right questions? Are we asking the right questions? But also at the end of the day, we have to forgive ourselves. We can't stay stuck here. These are stuck. You know, all of these guys are stuck. That's 7. He's sitting there waiting and calculating, and they're stuck, and he's stuck, you know, and this is stuck. So we have to watch about getting stuck, right? And when we feel stuck, it's time to sort of Queen of Wands it, you know, like find that place where you don't feel like this woman, you feel like this woman. And the middle piece of that may be that you just sort of have to forgive the past and you know, maybe you're your own tree. Promise to be that tree, not only for others, but for yourself. That's also, because remember, this is the tree spirit also. So this is the other woman. She is the strength of this tree. To embody that strength that you need now, right? And it's a choice. So be careful about this is getting really long, sorry. Be careful about the mental energy here, because it can take us off track. And yes, there is definitely a moment of reflecting on past mistakes and planning for a future and keeping fingers crossed that this time we did it differently. But if your guide towards your next step, or whatever you do next, or whatever your action is the strongest, most solid, most powerful version of yourself, and you know when you're in that energy. We all know when we're in that energy. When you are here, you cannot make a mistake, right? When you are here, you cannot repeat this. These are mutually exclusive energies. You cannot be on these two vibes. So instead of feeding this sort of mental energy here and feeding this mental energy here, this is it's like two stories here of this kind of stuck over analytical mental energy. And then there's these other very powerful, natural nature figures. And in between the combination of the stuck and the nature, there is forgiveness. Okay, so this is the bridge between the two. If you find yourself getting into this energy, you're going to want to go through this and find this woman. You want this woman, the tree spirit who can give advice to everyone else, the one who calls the seasons, who knows when things are changing, who's willing to release those leaves so that they can fly away from her. Because there's an understanding that things happen at a certain time when they're supposed to happen, and that we cannot turn back time. We can only move forward. And so, yes, there is value in this analysis, in asking the right questions, in ensuring that proper seeds are planted for the future. But remember, it's a second that turns into a downward spiral, like all those energetic things just sort of feed down, right? So you want to watch when you're here, get into that. Check out that Ho'oponopono meditation. There's a whole bunch on YouTube if you want to find another one. But just always channel maybe do like tree meditations, like meditate as if you were the tree. Lots of tree poses in yoga. When you are here, you cannot be here. So just remember that, one or the other. Now, I must have intuited this was going to happen. I'm going to do the advice card from this because I felt like there was a lot of sort of darkness. And so I want to help us get to the light. So can I have one piece of advice, please, for Aries, general advice, for November 3rd to November 15th? November 3rd, November 15th. Okay. Soul family, call in your tribe. You don't have to do it alone. What a lovely image. And there's these dolphins, which are sort of like very fun, light energies. Let me read this. And they kind of travel as I know they're not called a pack. I don't know. I do know what they're called, but I can't remember right now. So it's time to call in your soul family and support team. People who get you at a soul level. People who are the same kind of weird as you. People who are your chosen family. And that's like this, right? So your mentors, the women who inspire you from before. They are coming and they are looking for you. If you haven't found them yet, this is a sign that they are close by. But in order for them to find you and recognize you when they do, it's important that you stop dimming your light and truly let yourself be seen, right? So it's like stop stepping into this darkness and step into this bright, fiery, shiny, this is the Queen of Fire right there. Sorry, what's going on? If you've already found them, you're being called to let them support you and perhaps also assemble a wider support team. Your support team can consist of all types of people, such as a therapist, coach, mentor, or healer. Tune into what kind of support you need right now. So the meditation here is to call in your support team to, help you work through this forgiveness and help you identify this energy as opposed to this energy. Okay, I'm going to stop here because it's getting really long. Again, as I said, if you have a question, you don't have to get into like specifics. Just be like, I don't like questions. Should I call him? Like, is he going to call me? So I don't want to answer those. If they are towards your personal evolution, I'm more than happy to pull an extra card of advice for you from that deck. Otherwise, I will talk to you for the next reading. Take care.